this campaign is about is thinking big, thinking outside of the box. And one way that we have got to think outside of the box is to end this disgrace of mass incarceration in America. When we talk about what's going on in this country, I hope all of you are listening to my Republican colleagues, and the good news is I guess they have departed from South Carolina. But you have listened to them, and if you hear them talking about family values, that's right. I want everybody to be clear about what they mean, because this is not laughing stuff. What they mean is that every woman in this arena, every woman in this state, every woman in this country should not have the right to control her I disagree. What they mean is that the federal government should defund Planned Parenthood. I believe we should expand funding. What they believe in family values is that our gay brothers and sisters should not have the right to get married. I disagree. Let me tell you about what real family values means. Today in South Carolina, today in Vermont, women are having beautiful babies. Big day for the parents, pretty big day for the baby. But here is the point. Here is the point. If that woman in South Carolina is working class or low income, or if that woman in Vermont is low income or working class, what happens a week or two after she has that baby? That's right. What happens is she is forced to be separated from that beautiful baby and go back to work to earn enough income to take care of her family. That's right. That is not a family value. That is the opposite of a family value. Now, it turns out that all over the world, not only in every industrialized nation, but in many poor countries, when women have a baby, they are guaranteed paid family and medical leave. Well, if virtually every other country on earth can do it, so can we. We're going to pass legislation. We're going to pass legislation providing 3 months paid family and medical leave. When we talk about the economy and when we talk about high unemployment, it is clear to me that we need a massive federal jobs program to put Americans back to work. We should be hiring teachers, not firing teachers. Now, I was in Detroit, Michigan last week, and I talked to some people from Flint, Michigan. And what I heard from those people was probably the most depressing and distressing stories that I've heard in my political life. And I won't even go into all of the details about what is happening in that community because it is so horrific, so unbelievable that it could be happening in America in the year 2016. It is just impossible to believe. But the point that I want to make is that our infrastructure, our water systems, not just in Flint, but all over this country, wastewater plants, roads, bridges, levees, dams, rail, airports, in many parts of this country, that infrastructure is collapsing. And that is why I believe we should invest heavily in rebuilding our crumbling infrastructure, creating millions of decent jobs. When we talk about what goes on in America, it is important to talk about the elephant in the room that many people choose not to talk about, and that is the greed, the recklessness, and the illegal behavior on Wall Street. When the U.S. Congress, against my vote, bailed out Wall Street, they did so because of the fear that the big banks were too big to fail. It turns out that today, 3 out of the 4 largest banks are bigger now than they were when we bailed them out because they were too big to fail. Turns out that the 6 largest banks in America have assets equivalent to 58% of the GDP in America. They issue 2/3 of the credit cards, 1/3 of the mortgages. In my view, when you have a handful of financial entities so big, so powerful, so politically connected, what we must do is break them up. Six years ago, the Supreme Court rendered one of the worst decisions in the history of the United States of America. And what they said to the billionaires in Wall Street and corporate America, you already own much of the economy, now we're going to give you the opportunity to buy the United States government, and that is precisely what they are trying to do right now. One family, the Koch brothers, and a few of their billionaire friends, you are familiar with the Koch brothers. They will be spending in this campaign cycle $900 million. So here's the story. You get 1 vote, they get 1 vote, but on top of that, they get $900 million to spend. That is not democracy. That is oligarchy, and we are going to stop that. Everybody in America understands that for us to be successful as a nation, as an economy, we need the best educated workforce in the world. And 30 or 40 years ago, we had the best educated workforce in the world, not today. Today, we have hundreds of thousands of bright young people, did well in high school, wanting to go to college, unable to do so for one reason: their families lack the money. That is unfair to those young people. It is unfair to the future of our country, and that is why I believe that in the year 2016, when we talk about public education, we've got to be talking about making public colleges and universities tuition free. I am told that this is a radical idea. I don't believe it. Talk to the people in Germany, talk to the people in Scandinavia, talk to your grandparents who in this country 50 years ago could go to major universities virtually tuition free. And then the other part of that equation that we have to deal with is the incredibly oppressive burden of student debt that is resting on the shoulders of millions of Americans. Anybody here dealing with student debt? I rest my case. What kind of debt are we talking about? 50? How much? $85,000. How much? $200,000. Okay. This is like a Vermont auction, except it's a young woman here. Raise your hand. All right. She is $200,000 in debt. Her brother is $200,000 in debt. Now, when you engage in this campaign, it's important to take a deep breath and understand that in many instances the status quo does not make sense. People more in life than to get as good an education as they can should not end up $200,000 in debt. I talked to a guy, I raise this issue in every speech that I give. Talked to a guy in Nevada a few months ago, 55 years of age. He's been paying off his student debt for 25 years. He is more in debt today than he was when he took the loan out. And he is worried that when he gets Social Security, they're going to garnish his Social Security to pay his student loans. This is crazy. This is crazy stuff. What we want is a nation which encourages people to get all the education they need, not punishes people. And that is why we have introduced legislation that allows people with student debt to refinance their loans at the lowest interest rates they can find. Now, I have been criticized like about 12 times a day